My name is Adia. I identify as a lesbian, and I use she and they pronouns. I'm from Mannington, West Virginia, which is near Fairmont in Marion County, just south of Morgantown. The first time I really knew that I was a lesbian is hard to pin down. I had always kind of, had crushes or been like interested in like my friends as a kid, as like 5-6 years old. Like I remember my first crush was on my best friend, but I didn't really recognize that there was anything wrong with that until middle school maybe, when all of the rest of my friends were talking about their boyfriends and they're like going to dances and they're doing all this stuff, and I just like was not interested in it at all. And I was like, oh wow, like this is weird. And so it took me a couple of years when I was like 12 or 13 to like really like come around to it. The first people I came out to were kind of my friends and my teachers at school. I had this one, my library teacher in middle school, who was super understanding and super helpful with anything that I went to her with. And so, this was just another one of those things. And it was never really, a big deal. And so she was very encouraging in the process of me coming out to everyone else. So yeah, that was when I was like 13, and then I came out to my parents and my like siblings when I was 14, and then everything else just kind of came after that. So actually I came out to my dad first, but like accidentally. We were like camping, we were at this festival type thing, and I just kind of like mentioned it in conversation. Like I just like let it slip, and I was like, oh my God, like, and he kind of looked at me and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, but like I'm gay. And he was like, oh yeah, okay, like yeah, I know. Like it was not anything like catastrophic or this like big event. And I'm sitting there like sobbing, right? Because it was like the first time I'd ever like really like told anyone. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go sit by the campfire, like you can come over in a little bit if you want, just like take your time. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, it was just such a non-event. And so my mom was pretty much the same way. I baked cupcakes and I just like wrote like I'm gay on them, and I like left them out on my kitchen table like before I went to school one day, like in the 8th grade. And I was like, hey mom, like go look on the table. She came out and kind of like saw like the cupcakes I had sitting out. Right? My plan was to like leave them out and then leave, so I didn't have to be there when she saw them, because I didn't want to like have that face-to-face encounter, just because I was like, this is so much. But it ended up not working out that way. And so I was standing right there, and she kind of looked at them. She was like, did you make these? Like you wrote this? Like this is you? And I was like, uh-huh. And she was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, I mean, I was never met with anything but love and support from my family, which, I know is not the case for a lot of people, so I feel incredibly lucky. School was a different realm. Not that I really had many friends, but a lot of them kind of fizzled out in the few years afterwards. There were instances of people making fun of it, or people like using names or words or whatever, but again, by that point, I had already had these feelings for like 10 years, and I was like, yeah, this is not going anywhere. Like I might as well just, get over it. Especially in high school, I found a lot of friends in my teachers, and so I ended up hanging out in the art room for like 3 periods of the day. And I just texted my English teacher a meme yesterday, actually, that was like, it was like the Baby Yoda meme where she's like holding the Baby Yoda, and the woman was like, high school English teachers, and the Baby Yoda was like, they're queer students. And I just I thought it was very relevant, because like, yeah, I found a lot of like comfort and like solace especially in my English teacher. Fairly certain there were like maybe 3 like out LGBT people in town. And I know I was like one of the only ones in my high school, or, at least it was like out at the time in high school, right? So it was a very isolating experience and a really hard experience to kind of like deal with that just in like the day-to-day. I had intended on going as far away from Mannington, West Virginia as possible. I was looking at New York, I was looking at Princeton, I was looking at a couple places in like Oregon and Washington, and those were like way too much. Because I had assumed that, the rest of West Virginia was also like my experience, and so I had to get, as far from this place as possible because my identity as a lesbian and my identity as a West Virginian were like inherently incompatible, and so it was never going to work, and I just had to leave. And then my junior year, I actually got involved with like the governor's schools. Like, I don't know if you're like the Governor's Honors Academy. I went to GHA here, and it was my first time like being on campus, because I'd always grown up in Morgantown, right? Like, this was the closest anything to my house, really. I know Morgantown. I don't want to be around all these people that I know. Like, I don't want, I want to try new things. I want to like get out there. But after coming here as a student and living in the dorms and like experiencing Morgantown from a campus student perspective, I was like, oh wait, like this is not the Morgantown that I know. Like, hold on a second. Yeah, this was the first place I applied to, and I got accepted and decided right away, because I just, had fallen in love with it. The comparison between here and my hometown, and I'm sure any small town in West Virginia or in America, right, is like completely shocking. And obviously Morgantown is not, 100% there. Like, there are definitely still issues. I think that there is a kind of, a broader sense of community, and there's definitely strength in numbers, and so the more people you encounter and the more people you come across, and just like hanging out at the LGBTQ center or going to different events or speakers or whatever, is just something that I like never really thought was possible, like growing up in Mannington, right? Like, I was like, oh, this is it for the rest of my life. Like, I'm just gonna be this lonely, like, lesbian forever. So I started using them pronouns actually just like like a month ago. I have had an interesting relationship with gender recently. I don't know, I think it's just a step in the kind of process of like finding out what's right and what feels good. For me, it's really just a kind of catch-all for everything else. So, like, for example, I feel mostly like a woman. I feel mostly female, but then there's another part that I think is a lot related to my sexuality and my sexual orientation and my identity as a lesbian. That's like, oh wait, like I have this really interesting relationship with femininity, and it doesn't quite feel like female. There's something else there, and so for me, they them was just a way to like kind of catch that feeling. For other people, they may lie completely outside of the male-female binary, so they, them can be used to kind of detach themselves from that binary completely. It's a way for people to kind of share and express and find comfortability in the fact that they, don't lie strictly within the confines of male or female or she or him or whatever it might be. It has still been hard, and it's still been scary just because I'm not really sure. I'm not, confident, and I'm not comfortable in it like I am with my lesbian identity. And so it's just kind of tricky to navigate at the moment. And, I'm still like coming out to this day, right? Like, you have to come out to everyone that you meet, like, existing as a woman, but as like just a person in general, right? Like, it's assumed that you are cisgender, that you're heterosexual, that you're, this whole list of things. And so every time I go somewhere with my girlfriend, right, and I say, oh, and this is my girlfriend, and you get funny looks, right? Because like it's not what is expected. So, coming out has been a long process and is a different process now, especially since I've started using different pronouns. It's just kind of another like layer of things, but especially like kind of in my day-to-day life. Coming out to people can be intimidating, it can be scary, it can be, I don't know, there's always risks involved, and I feel very safe and comfortable in my identity. And so sometimes, you know, it's shocking when other people don't feel that way about me. And so for the most part, you know, I'm very open and very comfortable about like, oh, and this is my girlfriend and this is, you know, whatever, like I am this, and this. But then there are times when I leave, especially like the bubble of Morgantown, right? And travel to different places or different areas of the state, and it may be met with less safety or comfort. There's always kind of this labor involved of like, is this a safe space for me to come out? And you know, even just like, I don't know, like going out to eat with my girlfriend can be stressful. Sitting across the table from each other and like holding hands with one another, and then, you know, getting funny looks from the people who walk by. And it's like, yes, we are like on a date, like we are together, we are dating, right? And so, you know, there are times when in just like very short passings and like it's not worth it, like I don't feel like answering questions right now, or like I don't feel like talking about it, and I know that if I mention it then there's going to be like a follow-up, and I just like don't have the energy to do that right now. So yeah, there are times when I just don't mention it. The number one thing that you can do not as a queer person, as an LGBTQ person, is just to listen and to be supportive and to not pass judgment and to not make weird faces when your friend comes to you and says, hey, I think I want to use they, them pronouns, or hey, I think I might be more than straight, or I may be, you know, this identity. I think that yeah, like the best thing that you can do is to just be open to that and be understanding and meet them with love and support, because that is most definitely what they need in that moment. If they are comfortable enough with you to confide in you and to tell you these things, like you should feel very, very privileged, number one, but take that as a responsibility, right? As a responsibility to be empathetic and to be kind and to be open with them. It doesn't change who they are, it doesn't change what they do or how they are, and so it shouldn't change, you know, how you think about them or how you feel about them. Just treat them as you know, as you would with anyone, and that goes to everyone, you know, not just if your friend decides to come out to you, but people you may see passing on the street. Like, don't give them weird looks if you see them holding hands with their partner, right? Like, just, you know, kind of be nice. Show support and show love, and your friends will thank you for it and will be grateful. Yeah, I think that's it.